It's a good news and good day for the Hmong people.
We see it on their aging faces and uniformed chests, these Hmong American soldiers who sacrificed so much in support of America's secret war in Vietnam.
Everybody just knew about Vietnam, the Vietnam War.
But this is what they didn't know. We were also fighting communist forces in neighboring Laos. The CIA's secret war relied heavily on Hmong soldiers to fight with special forces and rescue downed airmen. For that, they paid a heavy toll.
We lost, I think, several hundred thousand. But just for the Hmong, over 35,000, that's troops.
It's a sacrifice finally recognized with a Lao Veterans Monument in Arlington National Cemetery. Tomorrow, Wang Li Vang will be among the Hmong vets, traveling to D.C. to remember those who died in Laos.
All our fallen soldiers and our leaders, they have lost their lives over there. So it is very important for us to go every year and honor them.
A granite memorial is just the beginning. There's also an effort to give full VA health and burial benefits to those who fought with U.S. soldiers.
Actually, they would like to be recognized in the same like our ally, that troops that have helped the United States.
Helped in a secret war that nobody recognized, but one that all Americans will never forget. Bill Hudson, WCCO 4 News.
I would take a camera out, and I shot many, many pictures. It was not like today. You couldn't just show them a picture immediately. You had to go down and have the picture down in Vientiane and bring the pictures up and hand it to them. And I didn't realize then that I was recording the history of the Hmong people. The Hmong lived in very high places on very isolated hills. One of the problems is, while you can build a village by bringing bamboo and other things up and putting a ring of trenches around to defend yourself from, the ground is not particularly good. You slash, burn the trees, you plant the rice, and burn the rubbish that is cut, and you can get 1, 2, maybe 3. The villages were quite isolated, but with the airline, basically, that we had flying back and forth, and 2 and 3 days marches, you would be able to begin connecting with other Hmong in this giant network of a Hmong nation. When they arrived in Samtong for medical treatment and were ready to go, they would often just go to the airport. And the rationale made sense. Yet they had to fight and protect their homes, and they kept losing and kept moving southwards through the mountains. There was a lot of fighting, there was a lot of running, there was a lot of shooting, and there was a lot of dying. And I never learned the name of more than 1 or 2 airplane pilots because they had quite a high mortality rate. We had 2 groups that we flew in, primarily Air America, and the other was known as Continental Airlines, and they worked for the boys next door. We delivered rice for the 2 years that I worked with Pop, helping people go to a new area and get started in a new life. There was quite a lot of attrition among the Hmong soldiers. It got so bad that at one time, General Vang Pao had to send out the order that all students, male, up to the age of 11 were exempt from going in the Army week, and I am flying back with his body to the village that he came with. His rifle accompanied him, a small carbine suitable for that of a boy. The larger rifles went to I had an assistant, Lee Sing, and I said, Lee Sing, I have a camera here, why don't you take some pictures? He told me that there had been an attack on the airfield the night before, and he'd heard people running, and the next morning after everything was under control, he went out to the airfield and just to the edge of the airfield found a woman who had been sick and come to Mon Son to have treatment. She and her husband and child had gone out to the air killed. The next morning they were sitting at the airport. She had a blanket over the bodies, and she realized that she needed some money to buy something to eat for breakfast, and she reached down and she pulled the blanket from her husband and child, refugees, and we think they're all soldiers. And I said, they are soldiers. And he said, how can you be a refugee and a soldier at the same time? And I pointed to one of the Hmong nearby. He has been fighting ever since he was born because he had to move when he was a boy, and then he moved as a young man and a married man. And he has been a refugee 8 times. Now, he is also carrying a gun because when the enemy comes in one side of the village firing a gun, children and your items of possessions, your baskets and the pigs and the chickens, you like to have them and you flee south, but you also try and one man that I had pointed him to had been a refugee 8 times. And here he was. He helped me work with the people who were selling rice to us to give to the new refugees that came down. And while we were sitting, waiting for a helicopter to come back to pick up some of this rice, he said, you know, you're going home on vacation. But we keep fleeing downwards, and I can't go anywhere except south. And we're running out of mountains. That was flying north. It hit an air pocket. It flipped over, and it killed everyone on the airplane. And he became just another statistic in the Hmong who have been killed fighting for their lives and for their country. Remember most intimately, and says they spoke no English, they spoke Lao and Hmong. And it was a young boy and his wife. He was probably 20, she was probably about 19, and you looked at them and you knew from their clothes that they did not have very much. It's a long and very uncomfortable history. The plight of the Hmong shows how much people will resist.
Vietnam War, another conflict was being secretly fought in neighboring Laos. Laos was neutral. Yet the North Vietnamese had launched an offensive into the northeast portion of that country and the home of a peaceful agrarian hill tribe known as the Hmong.
We have been providing logistical support in some.
So the CIA identified General Vang Pao, a Hmong general, and armed him with ammunition and aircraft to help stop that communist incursion.
Yeah, go with those 2 guys.
With the help of the United States CIA, the Hmong fought back with arms, ammunition, and 8 outdated but rugged T-28 attack aircraft.
This is the battlefield in Laos. These are government troops supported and financed by the United States.
They wanted to push back, and we helped them push back. The Hmong are on the front lines.
Trained to fly in Thailand by a select group of American instructor pilots, these Hmong pilots returned to Laos and flew fearlessly, relentlessly, and with such skill that they became combat pilot legends, even to their American counterparts.
They worked the hardest, and it meant the most to them to accomplish their goal of being a pilot.
Among the tens of thousands of Hmong soldiers supporting the U.S.'s secret Laos mission in the 1960s and 70s was this one, Shua Zhang, a captain. He was also a father and a grandfather.
He fought so I didn't have to fight, and so very fortunate
and proud of my grandfather personally and all the Hmong veterans.
The Twin Cities has the highest concentration of Hmong Americans. Their stories are embedded in Minnesota culture, but the people behind that history are starting to go.
We were looking at some pictures that
Freshman DFL representative Tu Zhang just doesn't want them to go unnoticed.
getting this in law, it allows for them to get some recognition, feeling that their service is being recognized and that the war that they fought was something meaningful.
So on May 14th, 2020, 45 years since the last day of fighting, will come a new day of remembrance for the Hmong Special Guerrilla Units. Representative Zhang hopes schools will use it to teach students about the secret war, about the estimated 35,000 Hmong soldiers who died in it, and, like his family, those who became refugees. Zhang's grandfather died in 2001.
But I know that he was there with us on that day on the House floor in spirit. Not just him, but all the veterans that passed away, all the women and children that couldn't make it. I know that they smiled upon us on that day, and so we're just very, very happy about that.
In Woodbury, Christian Cordero, WCCO 4 News.
On a summer morning, bright sunshine lights the way to the St. Paul Library.
I saw him with his model airplanes flying around.
Where inside, they're hoping a bright future.
And I said, can you make a couple of those for us at the archives for defense?
Can be found by looking at the past.
People wanted to see things in their own language, and that you don't get at Target and Walmart.
Marlon Heiss is an archivist and volunteer at the Hmong Archives. He became interested in Southeast Asia while reading National Geographics as a boy. And he now travels there yearly.
Pieces of Hmong embroidery of Pandao. Hmong don't have a country, don't have national library, national museum, national anything.
But this tiny section of library is hoping to change that.
There's more to add to it.
Much more.
All the time.
Much more, much more, much more.
For 20 years, they've collected books, art, posters, and videos of Hmong culture from around the world.
We're now up to 206,000 items as of the 31st of December 2018.
The purpose is to help the current generation of Hmong children learn about what their parents and grandparents went through to make a new life in America.
My uncle and my father, they also part of the American soldier who served on the Secret War.
After helping U.S. soldiers during the Vietnam War,
not that often anymore.
Brian Zhang's family lived in refugee camps around Thailand. But when he was 10, they moved from the jungles and mountains of Southeast Asia to the lakes and prairies of Minnesota. His family and thousands of others are the reason St. Paul now has the largest Hmong population per capita in the United States.
The younger generation, they don't speak Hmong anymore, and they have the archives to be a resource there, so if they can also learn about who they are, their identity, at the same time, their language.
Much of the work that happens here is educating and translating. Authentic written documents have been hard to come by.
Writing, not very much done. Paper and such, not very much available. Publishing, in Laos, not very much.
Which is why they're looking for VHS tapes that families may have recorded during their journey west. They're hoping to turn those into documentaries that this generation can learn from, so they can rediscover what being Hmong really means.
I really hope that the Hmong archives continue to keep what we, to collect more. I think the most important thing is how do we keep the material, but at the same time that our younger generation able to look it through, understand what it is, and also be able to read Hmong.
In St. Paul, John Lordson, WCCO 4 News.